Time for Wine Talks with Paul K.
Fascinating story.
This is Robert Mondavi from the Michael Mondavi Winery.
I taste a lot of wine.
Having a conversation with Shark Tank, Kevin O'Leary,
Michael Silacci, Opus One Winery.
incredible conversation with Dr. Mia Ruth.
No matter what, you're definitely going to feel better.
Sit back and grab a glass. It's Wine Talks with Paul K.
Hey, welcome to Wine Talks with Paul K. And we are in studio today, about to have a conversation with Elle Rodriguez. Introductions in just a moment. Wine Talks, of course, available on iHeartRadio, Pandora, Spotify, wherever you hang out for podcasting, and always sponsored by the Original Wine of the Month Club, now sporting the Rosé, which we're drinking today, in Sweet Wine Series. Hey, have a listen to my last podcast that was released with Simon Kelly of Saracen Wines in New Zealand. We had an incredible conversation because we were talking about the floods in the north of the North Island that literally wiped out the vineyard. Just an amazing conversation. Have a listen, out now. But not all here, because we're here to have a conversation with Elle Rodriguez. Written here, she's a wine disruptor, influencer, blogger, educator, ambassador. Elle Rodriguez, the modern pour. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Paul.
So glad you're here.
Me too. So
And it's
glad.
fun to have people that live in LA to come visit us.
When I heard in studio, I was like, oh, let's do this. Let's do this.
Did you expect
I love
this cool studio?
No, I'm quite impressed.
It's all good, huh?
I have to admit. And I'm loving the Willie's Wine Bar posters. I have one too.
Do you really?
I
Okay,
do.
so have you been there?
I have not
Oh my
yet.
God.
Is it good?
Well,
Have you been?
it's in the first district of France, in Paris, and it's been there since '83. The posters started in '83, and so they've become iconic to collectors,
They're very expensive.
And they're
I got
expensive.
one as a gift.
particularly signed ones, even more expensive. But Willie's an Englishman,
Oh, wow.
so Willie's not. Mark Williamson is an Englishman whose career in wine is incredible, going back to working for some of the greats that have graced this industry.
Yeah.
Like you,
Like me.
gracing the industry.
Right?
So.
Wait, am I your first Latina?
I suppose,
Yeah?
position that way.
Isn't that crazy?
So let's talk about that for a second. You
Yeah.
talk about your wine disruptor, an influencer, a blogger, educator, ambassador, but you do talk about on all your things that you're the first Latina to do this. So
I'm the largest Latina wine influencer in the U.S. right now.
that's not a figure of size, is it?
Well, in the wine
That was a joke.
influencing world, size matters, Paul. Okay,
That was You mean your reach is large?
my reach is large. Yes,
Well, I could
correct.
Take that a different way too. So
Wait, by the way, and I feel like I'm the first Latina and the first person that's made you open up wine.
that's true.
Like, I literally walked in and was like, "Hey, what are we drinking?"
You said what are you drinking? I usually don't drink on camera because I'll
Right.
tell you why, and maybe you agree with me on this or not.
Tell me.
Since you're going to be working on some media yourself,
Mm-hmm.
I always thought for people to listen to me talk about a wine.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's go right into this issue right now. Talk about a wine that they can't taste and they're not tasting it with me.
Mm-hmm.
I think I don't think it's good radio, frankly. So that's my first problem. The other is like, does it really matter? And this is the part of the conversation we're going to have right now. This Keith Surlis guy was talking about that was on the show.
Mm-hmm.
He says, people always ask me, was that stainless steel or was that oak? And he goes, does it really matter?
Yeah, it
Why?
doesn't.
It doesn't matter.
It does not matter. I mean, unless if that's your vibe, right? Then I
If
guess
that's
it
what you're
matters.
into.
It's not really my vibe.
I don't, here's
Is
why.
it your vibe?
No. And I'll tell you why. Last night, I was explaining my show, which I'm going to tell you about now, to my friends. And we're looking at a painting. And this is a painting on my wall at my home, and it's an Armenian painter. And he goes, you were talking about this whole issue about whether or not wines are in a tank or not, whatever. I said, well, would you ask the painter what brush he used to paint that painting?
Exactly.
You wouldn't care.
No, you wouldn't.
Because you're taking the whole thing as a whole.
Yep. That's
So,
a great. That's
Isn't that
a
an
great
interesting analogy?
Yeah.
I thought I got away with that one.
Look. Well,
So-
this is actually a really great bottle. I love this color. Also,
This is Monsieur Melvin Masters. He's an Englishman
very
also.
rose gold color with
Yeah.
hints of strawberry.
So now you're telling the people exactly what we're.
I mean, let's
No,
help
but
them out.
let's
a
tell
little
the
bit.
story though.
Okay,
This is
tell
it's
me.
called Le Charmel. It's from the Provence. Le Charmel means Charlie and Mel. Charlie's the son, Mel is the father. They call it Le Charmel. This is one of the
Cute.
great negociants of France, from I'm talking about he goes back about 50 years.
Oh, wow.
He's actually in town right now.
I'm flattered. Thank you for sharing this
great
bottle
guy.
with me.
We have a very close relationship, and he always makes great wines. They're always solid.
I've never had this one.
But we have to go back to the Latina thing.
Oh, okay.
So what happened?
Dile mi, papi. Dile mi. That means
Well-
tell me.
No, you tell me. Why did you decide that this was an important feature for the Latina community or the Latin community in general?
I honestly think it's my people, Spanish people, Latinos as a whole, not just Mexicans specifically, because I am Mexican American. And but when I got into this space, I didn't really see a lot of people that looked like me who were drinking wine, let alone talking about it or trying to influence it. And so what I found is that it is my people that take it from the earth to the winemaker, but there was such a void from the winemaker to the glass in that same community. And I didn't understand that. I couldn't wrap my brain around that. So I thought, well, I would like to fill that void. And if people see someone like me drinking all of these wines, maybe I could, I guess, quote unquote, influence them to try something or think outside the box, because I didn't come from a wine family myself. I came from a beer and tequila family, like most Mexican or Latino people. We don't really, at least the Texans that I grew up with, because I grew up in Dallas.
Well, the Texans, yeah, they have their own wine trade, and by the way, their rules are really strict in Texas. They call it the TABC is really kind of a pain in the rear end.
Yes,
we've been audited by them before.
Oh, really?
But that's kind of an
That's
interesting
crazy.
concept because there's an issue in Napa right now, right? And they just had the auction last weekend.
Right.
They raised the money for awareness for Napa Valley Vintners,
right, for the
and whatever.
Vintners Association.
But part of the irony and one of the subjects of the show I want to produce, and my show is a travel log show. It's about the backstories of wine, not the swirling and sniffing. And that is, yeah, you can't afford to live there. Like the farmers, the ones that you're talking about, the pictures, pickers can't afford to live there.
Absolutely.
And so here are these huge chateaux and these people that made all their money doing asphalt or surgeons, and then
or tech people.
And tech people, yes, 129, and then now you can't afford it. And I'm not a socialist in the sense that has to be that way, but you would think that you could afford to live where you work.
100% agreed. Like it's quite shocking in that aspect. And also, I don't know if you saw during the rains as well. There's a really great Instagram called Flowers in Spanish, and she's great, and she's always showcasing what a lot of the farmers are going through. And as this terrible rainstorm was happening, they literally had just plastic bags as protection, and literally it looks like a hurricane is coming or tornado, pouring rain, and here they are picking and all the agriculture. And I mean, like, that shit breaks my heart. Like, I am so privileged and blessed that I am educated, and I am extremely vocal about the way I am treated and my pay and everything like that. But like, for the people that aren't, like, English isn't their first language, and it bums me out so much, so that this was another one of the reasons why I felt that it was very strong that I start this platform to be like, hey guys, like, what the fuck? This is not cool at all.
What do you think that is, though? I mean, I have this conversation with people of color, let's call them that. I grew up in Inglewood, by the way, so I've got, privilege in that regard.
Yeah.
And I've tried to peel back how this happened. Now, the Napa Valley Vintners Association in the 50s and 60s was the Louis Martinis and the Robert Mondavis and the Swiss guy, the Hess guy. Those guys were just trying to make a living, selling wine and building an industry that didn't exist prior.
Right.
So somewhere along the way, the industry became sort of aristocratic,
right,
and possibly not offended, but drove away people of color, Latinos, any minority that may find that it's more of an English aristocracy than it is a beverage of great human connection. So how would that happen? Do you have any idea why that would happen, and what are we doing to fix that? You're doing something to fix it. Let's start with that.
I mean, I'm
trying to make awareness to the group.
That's where I found that is my strength, is that since I'm a loudmouth and I'm very vocal, that's what I can be
wouldn't say
vocal
loudmouth.
about.
Go ahead.
I can thank you very much. I can be vocal about that and bring awareness. That's my contribution, right? I'm not a millionaire or a zillionaire, so I can't really like afford to give back financially, but I can give back in awareness. And I think awareness is a lot larger than just filling a check out.
Of course. Awareness, it sounds like it's two-pronged awareness. A pronged awareness that we have this irony between the pickers and the chateau owners and what happens between the bottle. Because I'll share a quick story with you. And then the awareness to the Latino community that a glass of wine can be a very enjoyable beverage. It has a great connection, in my opinion, to the soul. Your human soul and wine have something in relationship, regardless of your race. And so you got to tell both those stories.
Absolutely.
But the movie Bottle Shock, which is the theoretical story of the Judgment of Paris when the Americans finally beat the French in their own game in 1976.
In the 70s, right.
Mike Gergich, the famed Croatian vintner that actually made that wine in 1972 for Jim Barrett, declined his role in the show. So he's not even part of the show, but they replaced him with a Latino winemaker.
Oh, interesting.
Which I thought was really interesting.
Yeah.
They say that, right?
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I forgot the guy's name in the movie, but they decided to replace him with that. So I'm wondering if there's any changes, and do you see more Latinos and Latinas in the industry, going to school, going to knowledge school, UC Davis,
Yes.
becoming more aware of it?
Yes, that definitely I have seen a lot more, and in the influencer world as well. I see a lot more people picking up wine, and especially younger people too, which that's really cool. Or I really love when I get the DMs like, oh my God, I never tried this wine and I saw you drinking it, and like, oh my God, it's really good. Thank you so much.
That's great.
And I appreciate those DMs, or the DMs where, let's be real, a lot of these wineries that I go to are predominantly white. And when I go there, when I go to a winery, it's a completely different experience than when anyone else goes to a winery, right? They want to pull out the red carpet. They want to treat me great so that I'll do coverage on them.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of unfortunate that when I do send people there, they're not getting that same treatment, like legit they're not. And that's something that bums me out.
Well, let's peel that back a second. I'll talk about something, but that's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard to do. I was thinking about that myself not too long ago. I can call, like, my wife's cousin was in Napa. They were there like 2 hours notice. Oh, Paul, can you get us into a wine? I'm like, no, I can't. Mm-hmm. And even if I could call them, they generally they can't welcome everybody the way they welcome you, because
Correct.
It's just not enough people. It's too expensive. And so when I make reservations without me, they don't like it very much.
Yeah.
Right. So, and I knew I couldn't do it on the weekend anyway, that quick notice, but I'm very cautious about who I asked to do something for people that I'm not with them. And I suppose that's just a matter of manpower and bang for your buck and all that.
Absolutely.
But it doesn't mean they should be disrespected, because they show up.
Yeah, absolutely.
But you think
but listen, but hold on though. But I've been treated not so kind too. You know what I mean? Even though I'm at the status where I am, and I've collaborated with so many people, I haven't been treated that great also.
Like
so
wine
like
tasting rooms?
Yeah.
Well,
so like specifically though, like I won't tell them who I am, or I'll set up, just be like normal Rodriguez party of one coming in, and they treat me like garbage. And then I've done.
Why don't you change to O Rodriguez?
Rodrigo.
You'll sound
Rodrigo
Irish.
Rodriguez.
Maybe it'll be such a problem. Actually, every time we drive by Sequoia Grove, which is a great winery, Molly Hill just retired. There's a winemaker. She's a wonderful winemaker, a woman winemaker. But my wife remembers the first time we went there like 30 years ago, and they just treated her like crap at the tasting room. And she goes, I'm not ever going back there.
Listen,
it's unbelievable.
I remember every single person that treated me like garbage, and I do not go back.
Right,
and I am very vocal also about who treats me like garbage.
I think that's regular customer
I wouldn't
service.
go there.
Right?
Yeah, I wouldn't
But generally,
go there again.
I think in general with wine tasting rooms, especially on the weekends, I don't know if I could handle that job because you get everybody
sure.
and their mother going in there thinks that
Right.
they're wine aficionados,
Right.
and they throw out some stupid fact about what they
Stupid.
know, and it's kind of like it's
Yeah.
ridiculous.
And you're like, okay, did you
You know what? I'm
did you
making
want
minimum
another?
wage.
Did you what else did you want to taste? Like for sure, totally.
So you're a woman. You're a woman, and you're a Latino.
Yeah, Latina.
Glad I'm sure you appreciate the fact I noticed that. So, do you think that women have made more strides than let's say the race component?
Yes. So when I first started my blog, that was 2018. We're in 2023 now. I have seen way more women jump into winemaking roles, and that is pretty badass. Like that's one of the things that I'm really happy to see in this industry. But at the same time, though, I feel kind of bad for women winemakers because they're up against so much, like adversity and just.
Do you think that was built into the, like they talk about the.
You tell me why is wine such a boys' club?
The original boys' club.
Yeah.
This is the way I look at it.
Yeah.
Which let's just call the Napa Valley Vintners Association. I brought it up once.
Okay.
The very first woman to ever address them was a woman named Joanne Dupuy, and she did it like 1960 something. And she was producing tours in Europe. And she was asked to address the Vintners Association. I'm talking about Brother Timothy, one of the Christian brothers. You're talking about Louis Martini, the original, Robert Mondavi, all the greats. And after the speech, Brother Timothy came up to her and said, "We need you here.
Oh, wow.
We need your services here in Napa. Forget taking people to France and Bordeaux."
Yeah.
And she found herself divorced in the 60s with 3 kids and no vocation.
Oh, God.
And she came up with this thing. You have to look at Joanne Dupuy. She's really quite something. She's 94, 95 now.
She's still alive?
Yeah.
Oh, this is awesome.
She's around.
Okay.
She's very, very lucid too. She's no problem.
Hey, wine has
Wine has to
amazing
do it,
effects.
So if that was the first time anybody addressed the Vintners Association, I don't think that it was a deliberate thing. It's just the way, that good old boys networks work, right? Maybe it's like the Jonathan Club or any of the other clubs or fraternities or whatever happens. And that I think there's huge strides now for women on both sides. But one comment was made to me in a recent podcast was, yes, on the manufacturing side, lots of strides, but in the executive management side, not too much.
Not too much.
It's kind of interesting.
How do we fix that?
Well, I think it's the awareness is growing and people are understanding it. And of course, the millions of people that listen to this podcast are starting to get the message. Okay,
yeah, millions.
But I think that first of all, I think they're realizing that women have better palates than men in general. So
How funny you say that. So, when I first got into wine, I was dating this guy and we would always go to the white tablecloth places. He was always Napa cab. And I was like, Napa cabs are so fucking boring. Like they just are. And so then I kind of started that's kind of when my palate started getting really,
refined.
Yes, refined. Thank you. And then I just started learning that my palate was a lot better than his, and I could catch a lot of the flavors more than he could. And he was just like, well, I can't taste that. What do you mean? And I was like, well, I don't. It's like earthy and can't you taste the red fruits?
Is that why you guys broke up?
One of the reasons. But you know what? I don't talk about my personal life, on my platform and everything. I could be married for 10 years and nobody knows, and have 5 kids and nobody knows.
Except
because
do you know
why?
Palates, you've got to talk about that.
But because I find as a woman also that when you divulge a little too much, they start looking at you as not as powerful as you can be.
That's
so
interesting.
What I found is that my privacy, especially in my private life, I just will not share that with anyone ever, because that brings a lot more mysteriousness to me, I guess, and more respect. And isn't that crazy? I can't really share those things.
I think that's probably a valid role. I learned my lessons a long time ago in corporate America after I had to write an apology letter to about 200 different sales reps, all women. for something I really didn't mean to do.
What'd you do?
Well, I was in charge of releasing a new copier, and
Uh-huh.
I gave this speech, and it was a really good speech, actually. And I was showing the points of the copier, and at some point I said, a secretary is so easy, a secretary can do it. But I didn't say her. But later in the speech, like at the end, somehow the term her, secretary and her got melded together because I made it sound like secretaries were dumb in the beginning. I just sound like it's so easy, whatever. So I had to write a letter to everybody. And this is Xerox Corporation, big company.
Yeah. Oh gosh.
and then when
someone
I
got
was-
offended by that? Obviously.
Well, I was told by my managers to do it. But then one day I went on a sales call, and I can't remember the company. And I walked in and I was talking to the decision maker, and she was a female. And I was in the chair, and her boss comes in. And she's a rather stoic woman, and she stands there. And I get up, I go, take my seat. She goes, no. And I go, please. She goes, sit. I said, okay. Never says sit.
Yeah. You're like, okay. Yikes.
I get it now. So,
Yikes.
So what are you doing then with your messaging?
Now, I like at first it
got
was
one.
very diverse. Yes, exactly. First it was very like diversity, let's go. And now that I see that, I'm like, okay, well now what do I do?
Yeah.
So I've tried to pivot, and I'm doing like traveling and
Tell me about the show you want to do. Are you willing to discuss that now or no? No. Okay, so we're going to move on to that. Let me tell you a story about Alila.
what's a lot? Yes, tell me.
Alila makes wine from flowers.
Oh,
She's a young black woman.
okay. Where is she? What's the region?
Oakland.
Oh, so she's in California.
She's in California. She's in
Okay.
Oakland. She's a very cute young girl, and I had her on the show a couple of years ago, actually. But she says to me, I encountered sexism, racism,
Oh yeah.
and grape supremacy. And I go, what the hell is that?
Means they won't sell her good grapes.
They wouldn't know. They wouldn't.
Yeah.
They wouldn't buy her wine because it's made of flowers.
Right. But what kind of flowers?
Well, I don't know. She made all kinds of shit, dandelion, whatever. But she would go into a store with a wine, and I had not had a chance to taste them because they were sold out when I did the show. And the store owners would say, "No, we're not interested in this
Okay.
because it's not made of grapes." And I thought, what a fascinating concept, grape supremacy. But otherwise, along the way, she ran into all the things that you're talking about
Yeah.
in racism as well. Because when I looked into the Black Vintage Association about 10 years ago, it was some social issue popped up. I thought, I'm going to find some black-made wines and put them in the club. There were 5.
McBride sisters.
I don't remember back then, but there were only 5 then.
okay.
Now there's like 250.
How amazing, right?
Yeah, which is
Brown.
great. Right. But you think that should be part of the conversation, or it should just be this is a really good wine?
Oh, that's tricky. I want to say yes, but unfortunately, it's really not. Unless it's Black History Month. That's when I find where you have a lot of people talking about Black-owned and Black-made wines.
Right. And there's quite a bit.
Yeah, now there is, and I'm very like I love that. I love seeing the diversity. But when someone hands me a wine, they're not like, "Hey, this is black owned.
Yeah.
Hey,
Well,
this
should
is
it change the
Latino
difference?
owned."
Should it
You know?
should it change the way it tastes?
No, it's still no. I don't think so.
So here's kind of part of that thought process, and what I'm working on is that the taste of a wine is not just, we understand the terroir and the soil and the weather and all this stuff, and if somebody wants to put it in stainless steel tanks and get the character that belongs to the wine, great, that's important. But really, the wine is telling a story. It's telling a story of some history. It's telling a story of somebody's opinion. It's telling a story of somebody's history behind them. And so, even though it might not be a character, and like I've got this raspberry nose and this spicy component, isn't what I'm looking for. What I'm looking for is when I put that bottle on the table and I pour it for you, do you get a sense of place, where I've come from as a person, and do you get a sense of time, the time that I made it? And that's harder to define, but it's the most important part, and this is why I say that. If you read about some of the history of wine in Europe, all the world, Croatia, these are amazing places for wine that make amazing wines. What they might call the old world. But wouldn't you think, and this is why I'm coming back to the women's and the black conversation, wouldn't you think that the fact that the Nazis came into Europe and took over the wine trade, that Attila the Hun came into Champagne and waged battle, all the other things that happened over time, that a winemaker's family passes that wisdom and that influence, whatever that event in their life caused them to think something that changed their outlook on life, that passed it on to their kids, and that just keeps generational, that eventually that bottle of wine represents more than just the grapes and the weather. And why wouldn't that happen with people of color and women-made wines?
You tell me.
It should.
It should, right?
It should be part of the equation. Not that you have to announce that, but
Totally.
guess what?
Totally.
But wouldn't you think that there's...
Well, a lot of people don't realize what goes into a glass of wine. They don't realize the struggle, not just with the grapes, not just with the weather, not just with the elements to make it, right?
Yeah, just the physical part of it.
The physical part
The
about it, but
paintbrush part of it.
the whole lineage, the whole who's picking it, the whole where did it come from, and those ancestors and all of that, because all of these people have a hand in those grapes, right? So I feel like
That's part of the story.
totally. But you know what I love about wine though is that you and I are complete strangers. Right? We've never met, or I don't think, or
Well, you
if we
thought
have,
we did, but
maybe
I
in
get that
passing.
a lot from women.
So do I. Everyone's like, you
Sorry.
look like someone. And I'm like, who? Then they're like, no, you don't. Never mind.
Sorry.
But what I like about wine is we open up a bottle of wine and two strangers, right? But at the very end of this wine, we're going to be friends. Yep. And that's what I love about wine, how it brings people together. It's kind of like smoking a joint, right? You don't know anybody, and you guys share a little weed.
Doobie.
Doobie. Doobie. That's such an old word.
Well, I'm not exactly 16.
Well, we call them blunts, joints.
Never heard of it.
But if when you do that, it's kind of like a sign of appreciation of the other person, of just being human. And I don't know, that's what I love about wine,
so I
how it
think
brings people together.
You circled the definition of what wine is, different than any other beverage or even smoking weed or
any other
else.
beverage. Absolutely.
And
it's the one beverage that can bring people and not make you want to fight. Because if you did this with tequila or
Right.
Hennessy or something like that, I feel like you get a little more defensive and
Or gin.
turned up. Oh my God, my grandma used to say gin makes you sin. So I don't really drink gin.
It's when I drink gin and my wife drinks wine,
Not good.
it's not that good.
See?
Usually.
You get all turned up, huh? You get it's
But gin's
0
a
to
digestive.
100.
It's good for your stomach. No,
God,
so
yeah.
what I was making. For me, you don't get excited to sit down and pontificate over a glass of Maui Blanc, which is wine made from pineapples. You don't get all excited about pomegranate wine from Armenia. You don't have those relationships. And there's something about the grape that's historical in the human soul that takes you to this place where the roots ended up. And that's the expression, I think, that brings people to the table. Mm-hmm. That's also why I think it doesn't happen as much when you drink Cali Red or Martha Stewart Chardonnay.
Oh, gosh.
Because that's just sugared up junk.
Right. That I don't even really consider that wine. It's not because they're
Why?
allowed to put
Because
72.
You just
added,
defined it.
Yeah. It's just
they add crap.
it's sugar water.
It's not representing.
It is not. It's not.
Where
That's
it's from.
just that represents capitalism and all of that stuff. You know what I mean? Look, I'm not mad at Snoop Dogg and Martha Stewart for making buck. I get it, but I honestly don't think that they're drinking their own shit. You think Martha Stewart's really she's drinking rosé from Provence, not her own
not drinking it.
Chardonnay or her she's drinking.
Well, after all,
Chablis.
it is made by 19 crimes, and she is a criminal now since she got thrown in jail.
She has served her time, sir.
Those wines they're called formula wines, and they're meant to attract a particular segment of the marketplace. And we've always had them, but wine was much more honest when I stocked the shelves in that picture. Those things didn't exist.
Yeah.
There was Gallo Hardy Burgundy in a 1.5 jug, but that was a jug wine. That's what you knew what you were buying. It was the original screw cap,
Right?
And that was and Lancers was Spanish, and there was Leaf Braumisch from Blue Nun that was Riesling from Germany, Leaf Braumisch from Germany. So it was much more honest in the industry. In fact, some of those bottles that are in that picture there would have said 100% Cabernet on the label.
Oh,
And
wow.
we were so proud of that in California that we
Yeah.
didn't blend anything.
Yeah.
And of course, we found out later the French has been doing it for hundreds of years. But there was something more honest about the wine business back then that I wish we could bring forward so that people understood what that real glass of wine tastes like.
Agreed. So when like rosé, for instance, right? So my very first entree to rosé was when my fun aunt would come over with a box of Franzia, and it was called Blush at the time. Do you remember that?
I remember Blush,
wine?
yes.
And it was from California, but it was just a bunch of crap put in the box. You know what I mean? But I'm not mad at it.
How long ago do you think that was? 20 years? 10 years?
Plus
3 weeks?
20 plus. For reals.
Yeah.
My
Because he just passed away. Joe Franzia just passed away.
he did.
Stuff.
He did.
He got busted, a long time ago for putting
Stuff
Grenache
in.
and
Yeah.
White Zinfandel. So he should have gone to jail for that. It's a felony.
Why didn't he? Because he's wealthy.
No, partially, but he argued with the prosecutor that if he goes to jail, then the whole town of Merced will go down because he was the biggest employer.
Oh, wow.
And so they fined him $500,000 and let him go. And the prosecutor will tell you today, I wish I had thrown him in jail.
Really?
So tell me.
Let's talk more. Yes.
Well, you do a
Wait,
lot of.
fill my glass up and fill yours up.
You do a lot of interesting things.
Do I?
You've got some brands that you've been working with, like Laurent Perrier.
Yeah.
But
aren't they great? Also, female president, by the way.
I didn't know
Yeah,
that.
she's awesome. Michelle.
What do you do with them? Promote them?
yeah.
Talk with them?
Yeah, all of the above.
You're going to the Oscars. Is that true?
Did you hear
Did
that?
I read that?
I am.
You need a date? I'm sorry.
You know what? Paul, I wish you were available. You're not, right? Just kidding. I'm taking my PR person, to be honest with you.
So how'd you do that?
How
How'd you
crazy,
land that?
right? How did I land that? How did one girl who didn't know shit about wine is now going to the Oscars and the Independent Spirit Awards? And I was at the American Cinematique Awards too in November. So I work with Vineyard Brands. It's another
Oh, yeah.
person.
Hubert. My man Hubert.
Yes.
The first man I ever met in the wine business.
Really?
1988, yeah.
Oh, wow. So I I've been working with them for a very long time, actually. And we just sustained an amazing relationship. And I'm going to the Oscars with them because Brad Pitt's champagne,
Yeah, he's
Fleur
pouring
de
a rosé,
Miraval,
yeah.
is their champagne this
See,
year.
that kind of leads us to another subject because we're not even touching half the stuff I told
I
you.
know, like,
But this celebrity-based stuff,
not my favorite, but his is fucking legit.
they said that they worked on it for 10 years.
They did.
And I love Brut Rosé. It was my favorite
Yeah.
part of the sparkling world. But
But it was under, hold on
should
though.
it matter there's Brad Pitt's?
It helps.
Yeah. Well, they're pouring it at the
It
Oscars,
helps.
aren't they?
But you know what though? How freaking brilliant is that? Like Brad Pitt's another great story. And he grew up with nothing, came to Hollywood, kind of conquered that, then started producing and then directed. And then, then he became a furniture designer and now he's a winemaker. So like he's also had his hand in a lot of things, but how brilliant that he is like, okay, well, I'm not up for any awards, but you guys want to buy my champagne? Like, how amazing is that? So he's still making money and still working the business. Like, I really, really, really like him a lot. I think he's great. I think he's very inventive.
If he's hands-on,
He's very
then I give
hands-on.
him respect for that.
Yeah.
Most of the celebrity branded wines up until recently really were not hands-on. Greg Norman's obviously hands-on. Most of the other stuff. I think I even sold Big Ange. That
Oh, wow.
I had her flavored Moscato. It was the worst stuff
Ever.
And I
bet.
did it as a
Sugary.
favor to a guy.
Yeah.
So
Wait,
Big
did it
Ange-
sell though?
No, it didn't sell. Nobody calls it. Do you have any Big Ange?
Big Ange. Smoking
peach
cigarettes.
Moscato.
Right. Hey, Paul, you like my Moscato?
I didn't know who she was. And I was involved with a PGA.
Personality also means is everything though. I bet she sold a
Maybe
lot of
she did some.
yeah.
But I've seen all of them come and go. I mean, tons of them.
Mm-hmm.
I had Bella Lugosi, the famous Dracula.
Yeah.
I had his wines here.
Oh, wow.
They're very expensive. They're very good, but nobody cared.
Sorry, I shed a lot. Sorry.
Sorry,
It's all this
we
long,
have people for that.
long, gorgeous mane.
Of
It's
course.
real.
Well,
It's real.
that was one of my questions here. It's, it's like, so I was going through those, what you were talking on one of your podcasts and some of the articles written about you, and I started thinking, I wonder what she thinks that, does it really matter if someone can, well, you're talking about how you trumped your boyfriend at the time,
Yeah.
able to find blackberries in a wine or spice, but do you really, what do you want somebody to get out of the enjoyment of a glass of wine? Do you want them to be able to identify stuff or be able to say this is a Chilean Cabernet, or do you want them just to what?
Just enjoy it. Like,
Yeah.
drink what you like. Drink what you like. And yeah, we're talking shit about Martha Stewart's and, the 19 Crimes and all of that. But if you like it, drink it. Like, you don't, and also something like, you don't need a PhD to
That's the
like
problem.
wine. So another thing about my platform, a lot of my counterparts and colleagues, they're all, got deals with WSET and the Napa Wine Academy. And both of those people have come to me and said, hey, would you like more, education? We'll pay for it. And we'll collaborate on it. And then you just tell everybody, hey guys, get your WSET 3, I'm diploma, da 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 da. To me, that is like, no. That
Why?
you don't need a PhD to like wine.
Yeah,
like,
but why-
drink what you like. To
That's an
me,
interesting
I don't
point.
think I've seen it help other people if they want to work that avenue, but I'm not trying to like be a distributor or like make wine or do any of that. So it's not helping my platform. I doubt it would hurt it, but at the same time, I kind of like that I don't have all of this education yet. I'm going to the Oscars and
You see
Just
there.
saying.
See there.
just saying.
No, that's an important feature.
But you know what
important
I
comment.
mean?
It's a very important comment because you can learn all. I have files and boxes full of
Yep.
books on wine, and I've learned more from those books. By themselves, they don't do that much value.
Right.
So the WITSET, I call it WITSET, WSET.
I'm
Court
WSET
sommeliers.
too.
So doing that is a discipline. The
Right.
certification doesn't mean anything unless you know what to do with it.
Exactly.
But it is say that you've disciplined yourself to study. Now, a
Right.
lot of people self-discipline. I've learned more doing these podcasts, reading books on the subjects
Absolutely.
of the podcast than I'd know from trying to figure out a textbook from the WSET. That's
Absolutely.
the way I learn.
Yeah.
So it's different. But is the certification carry value with it that you take to the street? I think what's happened to us almost got diluted a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And that every sales rep that comes in this office on Tuesdays and
Mm-hmm.
sells me whatever, they have to have some kind of
Certification
WSET
or yeah.
Court of Somm
Right.
certificate or something
Mhm.
that they started the process.
Mhm.
And most of them don't care
Right.
that they started the process.
Right.
So the passion to learn about it isn't there.
Right.
You have the passion to learn about it. So you don't really need the structure because you're just going to learn about it,
Right.
right?
And I feel though I'm a much better learner when you taste it because that's why I tell everybody like taste. That's how you'll know what you like, and that's kind of what I've done. And honestly, like just last year I was in Spain with Vineyard Brands and Portugal, and I had never really tasted Portuguese wine or port or really
Yeah, it's great stuff.
great stuff. Wow, like.
Yeah, and the story there is amazing.
Yeah, it is.
Right.
And it's just so wait, so are you talking about the story about let me see if I know what you were talking about. So during England and Portugal days, they were doing swapping, right? And then so they swapped with England port, and then port was like, oh my God, this is amazing. And then that's kind of how it blew up, correct?
That's correct, but only because the French wouldn't trade with the English, so they had to go find somebody else. And so they ended up with the Portuguese.
See, I didn't need a diploma to learn that.
No, those are the stories that when you can place them and they make more sense to you
Yeah.
when you're sitting with a glass of port. So
Absolutely. And before port, to me, before I like knew the story about it and the history, I would be like, oh God, this tastes like NyQuil or like petrol or like just
Yeah,
very
it
tough.
can be.
And then when you
Well,
kind
you're
of
drinking
learn
Night Train. That's why. I'm kidding. That's what about.
and when I went there, I found the land to be beautiful, the people to be beautiful, just the whole situation. And then I started like going like, okay, well, let me taste this port stuff again. It's not so bad. And wow, I love port. It's digestive.
The proper
After
port
you-
is pretty fascinating. I'll
Yeah.
make you jealous. I went to a port tasting, 2-day port tasting. I think it was October. 2
Here?
days. Yeah, it was probably the port tasting of the century.
Oh, wow.
I mean, some of the bottles are the last known to exist.
Oh, wow.
Only 30 people are allowed to even show up because there wasn't enough port.
Look at you. So you went to the Oscars of port.
Well, it pretty much was. In fact, I did, on my Instagram account and my TikTok, I posted the picture of my friend. His name was Don Schliff. He used to run Wine Warehouse, opening a port with the.
With the
Red Hot Tongs?
Yeah.
We have 4.5 million views, right?
Wow.
Karina? I mean, why?
Amazing.
There's no music or anything.
Totally.
There's nothing trending. It's just him going like this.
Because it's
But
so
anyway,
weird. But that tool, though, that's like an ancient tool.
can you
Like,
imagine some of these wines were from 1890.
did it taste like it?
No, fabulous.
Really?
And so what other wine? So there's the story, right? What other wine can you get because of the serendipitous problem that the English had trying to get wine to England and that they needed to fortify it to make it last? Now it turns into a wine that actually can last over 100 years. I mean, this is
Brilliant.
pretty cool stuff.
Yeah.
To understand.
Very cool stuff. Very
If
cool
you want
stuff.
to understand it, you can, right?
Yep.
If you want to learn about it, you wanted to learn about it. You went
I
out there
did.
and did it.
Isn't that crazy?
And it goes on forever, though.
Yeah.
That's the beauty of wine.
Seriously. And what else is so crazy about wine is that, let's just say we open this wine tomorrow or yesterday, it wouldn't taste the way it's tasting right now
No, it
with
wouldn't.
us. You know what I mean? That's because it's ever changing. Like that's kind of
It's a
another
living-
reason
it's
why
a living being. of sorts.
totally
Yeah.
why I called myself the modern pour was because
Yeah,
like
tell
a
me about that.
biblical drink is still ever changing even to the 21st century that we're in today. Like how awesome is that? So
Maybe deep rooted in that is the fact that it's still the same exact damn drink, except
Totally.
it's just we can play with flavors and
Yeah.
use stainless steel or amphora,
Yeah.
whatever you want. But guess what? It's still fermenting grapes.
yep, fermented
Right.
grapes.
That's
That's
all it
it.
is.
That's it. But so tell me, like, okay, so I always say this thing that I'm not a pale stale male giving wine advice, because back in the day when I would go to restaurants with my family, you know, my stepdad would get the binder of wine, right? He didn't know shit about wine.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just like a binder of just like all of these wines, and it was a pale stale male. What you know, what are
Wait a
you
minute.
drinking today?
Pale?
Stale male.
I get the feeling this is my new nickname around here.
How funny. I was gonna give you a compliment and be
Okay,
like,
thanks.
you're not like a pale stale
I
male,
appreciate
Paul.
That is a
You
compliment.
have some personality.
So tell me about the pale stale male.
This pale stale male. This is another reason why I kind of created the modern pour, was because you were back in the day. Again, back to the boys' club. Only the pale stale male knew what a good wine tasted like, and it just was like the dumbest shit
I think
ever
that's
to
true.
me.
I
Like
think
just
that's
the
true.
dumbest shit ever. And now I was like, well, I can do what they're doing. Like I can certainly suggest a better wine than that. That's price conscious. That's probably a product of France as well. Like when I first started, all I could afford was Trader Joe wines. And so I met with the Trader Joe buyer in Hollywood, and I just said, look, I'm kind of starting this thing. I don't really know where it's going, but could you suggest some wines for me? And he was like, yeah, of course. What are you looking for? And I was like, I don't know, like a pink, a red, and a white. And he was
Oh,
just
that's
like,
very granular.
totally. He was like, okay, come on. And so we just kind of went through the gamut. And like Trader Joe's is a great place
How
to
long
start.
ago was that?
2017.
And who was 26? So 5-7 years.
And so that's kind of when I started learning a little more about what a product of France was, what a product of Italy was. And you have these really amazing wines that are under $10 that are these products of these amazing countries that aren't a very expensive Napa Cab or a CDP from France or whatever. And I'm not saying a CDP tastes like
Well, no,
as
you're actually you
good
make an
as a
interesting
$10
point.
wine, but you know what I mean.
Trader Joe's original premise was always odd lots. And there's a guy
Mm-hmm.
named Bob Burney who opened for Joe Cologne. And that's no longer the case. They've gone to some regular, steady inventory. You can
Yeah.
always rely on the fact they're going to
Yep.
have more of it.
A great New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc. They're
Yeah.
going to have a great
It's pretty reliable.
rosé. Absolutely.
Very reliable.
I still tell
So-
people to this day, like, hey, go get. I like a de Boeuf. You know what I mean? And he's there. A great Beaujolais, $8, $9. Wait, do you like
George
it or
did
no?
a lot of things.
Do you like it or no?
Well, I
Look,
don't,
it's
yes.
not for
No,
a price point. Is
no,
what
I
I'm
love
saying.
Beaujolais. In general,
Yeah.
Beaujolais is one of my favorite districts.
Same.
However, this is just a political statement. George DeBoeuf, he died. He didn't die that
He
long
died
ago.
recently,
Yeah,
a couple of years
by
ago.
creating Nouveau, set Beaujolais on its ear because Beaujolais often in many restaurants back in the '60s was more expensive than Burgundy because it was considered just as elegant and as sophisticated. But Nouveau screwed that up. And so everybody thinks of Beaujolais as Beaujolais Nouveau, and it's just fruity, strawberry, raspberry-driven
Right.
wine, which is not really what Beaujolais can be.
Right.
Beaujolais has 7 crus. They've got amazing stuff. I mean, one of their things, Côte de Pie, it makes incredibly complex wines.
What do those wines retail for?
Oh, they're like $40 or $60
Oh, okay.
for a cru that's decent.
Yeah. Okay.
Not too bad. So I was listening to something you were talking about. And you used the
Uh-oh.
word natural. I know.
Did I throw the F-bomb?
Everybody.
You know, my mom would always like call
Once or
me
twice.
and be like, "Hey, you're just, I love what you're saying, but you're just throwing
Well,
that
you
F
call it the
word
way you
around
see it, right?
too much." Yeah,
That's what you got to do.
I know.
People
I'm
respect
like, Mom,
that.
I use it like as a filler word.
People. The F word, not the filler word.
Yeah.
You look. You got
That was my New Year's resolution to
stop.
stop using the F word because I find
Well,
like
that was how many months ago? Because it didn't work today.
it did. I haven't used the F word yet. Did I?
Karina, I don't care.
Oh, 3 times. Okay. Well, that's a lot better. I'm going. It's a lot better. I'm patting myself on the back. Hey,
I'm with
that's
you.
a
I like
good.
it.
That's
we're
a
all
good.
about showing the people here, not about proper presentation. Kidding. The you were talking about natural wines, and I wanted to pick your brain a little bit that because that is a pet peeve of mine. And the pet peeve is that the word natural doesn't even exist in the FDA's list of foods. Like you can put natural bagels on the bag, but
Right.
there's no definition.
Do you prefer biodynamic or do you
Well,
prefer?
Again, a different thing. So natural doesn't have a definition. Biodynamic has certification. Organic has certification, but natural just means whatever you want it to mean. So I bought that bag of bagels the other day, and it says natural on it. That could mean nothing.
Yeah.
And the FDA will say something to the effect of, "Well, it kind of means that nothing should be in there that shouldn't be in there."
Right.
Okay. But what's your general take on the organic biodynamic movement? Is it a movement? Is it real? Is it important? Are people buying off on it? What are you telling the Latina group about that?
Drink at your own risk.
That's
You know what I mean?
you want to be too healthy?
like drink at your own risk. Can I tell you a story about how I even got into natural wines? So I
See,
had
I like the quote unquote.
Yes. So I had about 200 followers, and I had very new to my platform, and I saw that there's a famous woman named Isabel Garone,
Mm-hmm.
and she was bringing raw wine to Los Angeles, and it was the very first year of it. And so I sent her a lovely email and said, "Hi, my name is Elle Rodriguez. I'm a wine influencer disruptor. I don't really know what I'm doing, but I would really like to come and work for your organization and learn from you because I don't really know much about natural wine or raw wines. Do you prefer the term raw wines?"
They're not interchangeable. They're two different things in general.
Oh, okay. Well,
Again, raw has a definition, at least according to Isabel.
right. Right. She's very, yeah, she's a stickler about that. Not a stickler. She's just educating
Yeah,
people a
right.
lot more. And so she was like, sure. And so I went and I worked it and I did not pour anything, but I handed out glasses and I picked up glasses. And so the very first day,
I think she handed me a glass.
That's how I know you. See,
That's
look,
bizarre.
I do not forget anybody's face.
That was really bizarre.
I promise you. You're like, now I know who you are. Yeah, now you know who I am, huh?
That's pretty funny. All right.
And now look, we're sitting across from each other. How
That's
great.
awesome. Yes.
And so that was like my first day. And then the second day, you know, it's a 2-day festival or a 2-day
Right.
wine fair. And then she just was like, how are you liking everything? And I was like, well, I don't know. I still haven't tasted anything. And she was like, okay, you're off the clock now. Here's a glass. Go for it. And she let me try everything. And it was a really eye-opening experience because I was like, this tastes weird. It's different. It's not, you could tell it doesn't have all the preservatives and all of the stuff, the added extra stuff in it. But what I walked out of that was like, this is like new to me, and maybe everybody needs to learn about this as well. So I started advertising natural, raw, organic, biodynamic, whatever you like to call it, wines. And they're not my favorite, but they're not my not favorite. I'd rather drink that than Chardonnay.
Well, okay. So let's put it in groups. There's the shelf items that you see at the market, which are formula wines. Pothic Red always tastes the same.
Yeah.
Much like Hardy Burgundy in the 70s that Gallo made, you needed to taste the same so that when you
Right.
bought it, it's like buying a beer, right?
Right.
But that's not what wine is. We determined that.
Right.
But then there's conventionally made wines that are made with less intervention, but the difference might be that they add a little sulfite because it's a preservative.
Right.
It's natural in itself. It's a natural occurring product. It's not like we're doctoring up some chemical.
Right.
But there are like 76 things you can put into a wine.
Oh, I thought it was 72. Yeah, it is
In that range,
76,
okay.
isn't it? Something. It's
So
in the
that's- well, there's
70s
over
for
that,
sure.
Okay. Well, we'll go with 74. So then,
I'll meet
but
you
then
in the
there's
middle.
then there's the natural movement, which would really kind of just suggest less intervention.
Right.
But that could still be intervention.
Right.
Whereas organic,
But not as much,
yeah,
right?
organic has its definition. Like
Uh-huh.
you cannot do certain things, and our biodynamic takes it sort of like the next level up.
Do you agree that it started in the Greek, like in
Well,
Greece?
let's think about it for a second. That's what I was going to get to.
Yeah.
Look, pesticides, herbicides, and insecticides have been around not that long. So all the great Burgundies of even during the World War II, they didn't have any of that stuff.
Right.
So those wines would be classified as natural,
Right.
If not organic,
Right.
right?
Super
They
organic.
wouldn't be biodynamics, not bearing ox horns in the vineyard or anything.
Mm-hmm.
Which leads me to an interesting point because I had a very, very intelligent woman here who is the first organic certified vineyard in America and the first biodynamic. And I said, "Aren't you?" I digress here. Aren't you?
That's
a
one of my
proponent-
favorite words.
Yeah, digress.
Digress.
Aren't you a proponent of what you eats? Like, if I'm eating Cheez-Its and those Cheez-Its are made of GMO flour, then I'm
Right.
really eating GMO flour, not the Cheez-Its. So food is what they
Mm-hmm.
eat. So if your wheat is eating healthy microorganisms below the soil, then you're benefiting from that. So I told her, I said, so if you're burying horse shit in the ground,
Right.
aren't I?
You're gonna be a piece of shit.
Aren't I eating
Is
horse
that
shit?
what the?
She goes, no. She gets something out of me. Anyway, the point is, like, this goes to this conversation I've had before, and it's a tough question. I don't expect you to answer it with any granularity, except that if wine had no profit in it, like if Pothic Red, which is obviously pure profit in the sense of they got to sell as much as they can to turn a profit,
Absolutely.
and they want to flood their shelves with it, and they buy the space at Ralph's Market to get the Pothic Red and
And
Snoop Dogg.
7-Eleven.
What if profit had nothing to do with it? Your only motivation as a winemaker would be to produce the best stuff that you can from where you grow it. Would it be different?
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
Why don't we do that?
Absolutely.
Can we do that?
I want
Can
to.
you and I get in the winery and not make any money at it?
That's what I feel. Listen,
Which
I'm
most
not
people
really
do
making
anyway.
that much money anyway doing what I'm doing, and I've been in the game for a while. You've been in the game for a while.
It's
Are
tough
you making
racket.
money?
It's a tough racket. Last year was a very tough year.
Yeah. But like, was 2020 good for you?
COVID was great for us.
Yeah.
I collected some really good wines during
Yeah.
that period
I bet.
that I still have. But no,
Last year was
post-COVID,
Yeah.
the consumerism has changed considerably.
Absolutely. Because nobody's really in their home anymore.
I
Or,
know.
everything's open now and you can go and taste. You're not really
Millennials
like.
drinking White Claw. Can you answer this question for me?
I've never had a White Claw.
Oh,
Sorry.
you've not experienced anything. in
I
life.
know.
What kind of
Hey,
kind of-
I'm like, I know. Believe me.
kind of life is that?
Because I just don't like, I don't like seltzer.
So here's my argument with that.
Uh-huh.
Right? That generation, and I insult a lot of people saying this, but that generation wants it sustainable. They want organic. They this, and we're all about the the carbon footprint.
Right.
Then why are you drinking artificially flavored crap?
Right. Agreed.
I don't get it.
Agreed. That's why
It
I
makes
don't.
no sense
I
to me.
don't drink that. I never even had one.
How about low carb, low fat, low everything wine?
No, I
Why?
think that's just stupid. I heard this fit vine.
Yeah.
It's a fit wine or
Supposedly, yeah.
like a whatever, and they're like, oh, it's a healthy wine. It's only like 30 calories or something like that, and I'm like, gross. Why do I want to drink that? Like
Thank
that
you.
sounds yuck to me. And actually, I've tried it, and I wasn't a fan, and it tasted like a Stella Rose or it was on that same level of that. And there's someone else, I don't want to name a name, but it's also a celebrity wine, and she's out here saying, oh, we make a healthy wine or
Oh, that's what's her name, Cameron
yeah,
Diaz.
yeah. I didn't want to say it, but
It
like
doesn't matter because that there's
that
it's-
wine though, and it's like insane how much I see this everywhere. Social media, people like everywhere. And that's something also kind of that what bothers me about wine influencing and wine influencers specifically is because I started in the game in 2018. And then after pandemic, I saw a very high number of people start kind of becoming wine influencers. And what they were peddling was just garbage wines. And it's still today. And those people really bother me because number one, they're really not getting paid for that. They're getting paid in wine.
Mhm.
I need money to live.
Yes.
And that's how I live is by, working with really great brands and who can pay me. And but hold on, I don't only do it just for a paycheck also, because there's plenty of people that have hit me up and, hey, would you like to do this wine? And it's like a shit wine. And I'm like, absolutely not. And the paychecks have been very high. And for Chardonnay, and I don't like Chardonnay. I'm a very ABC, anything but Chardonnay person. And I had a very large Chardonnay company come to me with a very hefty paycheck. And I just knew that would be the day that the jig is up. Like nobody would
Credibility's gone.
ever,
Yeah.
nobody would ever listen to anything I had to say ever again if I said yes to that deal. And because from day one, I'm like, no, not Chardonnay. No, thank
interesting.
you. I'm not interested. And it's not. It's just like it's like a lackluster grape to me, in my opinion. It doesn't matter how. Oh, but it's stainless steel. Da 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 da. I just don't care for the grape. I like a Sauvignon Blanc. I like a Chenin Blanc. I like a.
You've got your morals,
Pickle.
girl.
Yes.
You've got your
like
position in life.
I can't just be out here in these streets, just like.
Schlepping Chardonnay.
Yes. No.
Jeez.
Do you like Chardonnay?
I like Chardonnay. I mean, we don't drink a lot of white wine in our home,
No.
but I think I like Blanc de Blanc sparkling wines. I like rosés. My
Now,
job is
see,
to
a
like
champagne
everything.
is different, though. I feel like a champagne is quite different than the Chardonnay.
Well,
And some
sure.
people have even like, but you drink champagne, and I'm like, honey, it's champagne,
Yeah.
okay? And it's completely a different beverage
Yes.
than a Chardonnay, in my opinion.
No, it's true. It's true. It is the grape. But my job is to like and understand and try to understand everything there is. And I shy away from certain things to drink all the time, but I
Right.
certainly have to understand what the structure was and what the wine was trying to be. Like when I was telling you about the two women on the podcast that were
Right.
drinking Rambauer, getting ready. Actually, they were at a fitness health seminar, and they were going to go to the pool with their Rambauer. And I go, wow, Rambauer is the wrong time. You don't drink it in the afternoon. You drink it at night. Well,
yeah.
That's not the point. It's,
Rombauer, though, I have visited their winery, and they're lovely, lovely people. They're very kind.
well, look, marketeers and the marketing of. My cousin called yesterday. He grows grapes in his little house, and Hidden Hills. He's decided to buy grapes from another source.
Oh,
They're
wow.
making Sauvignon Blanc. They're making Cab Merlot. And his wife went on a sales call.
Uh-huh.
And she's a gorgeous young lady, and she's very, very proper, and she's very sort of sophisticated.
Uh-huh.
And then she had to go stand in line with a whole bunch of reps at Remedy Liquor to try to get some time to have
Remedy.
this guy have the guy taste the wine.
Uh-huh.
And you're treated like crap.
Yep.
I mean, in general, restaurateurs and somms and buyers at liquor stores and markets treat you like crap.
Yep.
And so she came home and told her husband, I don't think we're cut out for this business because that's when the business kicks in.
Yeah.
And you're fighting against all the other people that want to sell bottles.
Absolutely.
And they got all the other stores that they want.
That sounds like an audition. I used to be an actress. That
No,
sounds
yeah,
like
so
an
you know,
audition.
that's exactly what it is.
It's exactly
and
what
you
it
have
is.
no control over the result.
Yep. Nope.
So I wrote down this note here, which is what's weird to me is that wine in its basic value and its basic consumption and its basic manufacturing is always the same. It's the same stuff. It's no different than when Noah planted the grapes in Mount Ararat and made wine. Grapes will ferment on their own if you just let them go. They don't do anything. They have enough yeast on the skins to do that. So we come forward to like even my dad's time when the wines were still honest and they were still made that way. You didn't put stuff in them on purpose. You just didn't do it because that's not what wine was. Then we started doing that, right?
Right.
Started putting sugar and acid and acidified it, and they got mega purple and they dropped it in, it changes the color. And we built up all this junk that's on the market still. And then the Cameron Diaz's come along and say, I don't have the junk. And it's like, but we never really had the junk. I mean, most of the time for most of the history of wine, 8,000 years, the junk didn't exist.
Have
Men
you tried
put it
her
in
wine,
there.
by the way?
Huh?
Have you tried her wine?
No, I won't.
No?
I mean, no one's brought them to me. I got a mailer at the house.
Yeah.
I've tasted Fitvine and I've tasted Kendall Jackson's version. So yeah, you're a woman. I guess we've established that.
Yeah? Have we established it?
In the beginning, I think we did. And my wife said to me, like, Kendall Jackson has a Sauvignon Blanc and they're touting 85 calories a glass, 5-ounce glass, 5 glasses to a bottle. So I looked it up, a regular 5-ounce glass of Sauvignon Blanc.
But how much sugar's in there, though?
It's supposed to be 0. The alcohol. It's like 11% alcohol.
Okay.
What I'm saying is it's 85 calories for that glass. A regular Sauvignon Blanc is 120 calories.
Okay.
So really, is it worth, like you said earlier, is it worth the 35
I
calories?
I don't count calories, so.
Okay, so you know it's not going to taste like.
Right.
Because alcohol, when you remove alcohol or remove anything from the process of making wine, it takes away from
away
wine.
the taste.
So
yeah.
do you think, is it worth the 35 calories?
No.
So why drink a bottle of wine? It's not.
I don't drink
It's
that.
not kombucha.
Yeah. Ugh. Do you like kombucha?
I do, but it's not when I drink. You know, I don't want to drink wine that tastes like kombucha. I want to drink wine that tastes
Absolutely.
like
Right? You want like something just tasty. And to me, that is not tasty.
No, it's not.
It's not. Like, it's just like, okay, then don't drink that.
Like, do you
have a tequila soda. You know what I mean? Like, if you're so worried about calories,
We're
have
on
a
an
vodka
hour,
soda.
so I'm going to wrap this up. But
Have we been talking that long?
yes,
Holy
Actually,
moly.
longer than
we
I
haven't
guess.
even gotten into the crux of like,
I know.
geez Louise.
So I'm going to go home tonight, and I have to decide what I want. But what happens in my house these days is I decide what I feel like drinking, and then I decide what I'm going to make.
And what'd you decide?
I'm going Burgundy tonight.
Ooh,
Probably Grand Cru as well.
Grand Cru.
Yeah.
You're fancy.
I
You're
told
so
you, COVID was good to
fancy.
me, and I collected a lot of cool
if
stuff.
you're drinking Burgundy Grand Crus on a Tuesday,
I mean, maybe I'll back
on a Monday.
off.
Wait, what is today? Monday?
Yeah, I'll come
Oh,
down
on a
to
Monday.
Premier Cru maybe. But no, I will say COVID was good to us. I collect a lot of cool things that I get to drink, throughout the.
I have to
rest
admit,
of
I'm
the
very
years.
jealous. Can I do a story of us right now? So
Sure.
part of the whole social media thing, right? Everything is content. Everything is content.
Content marketing.
Everything is content. Everything is content. Paul, say hi.
Hey, it's great to be on set today with Elle.
You're lovely. You are
Elle.
so lovely. Do you know? Like,
Well,
I
that's
mean,
nice
I
to
bet
say.
you know you're lovely, but like, I have seen some of your back stuff, and I'm just so happy that you're finally getting on to like having social media people on your podcast.
Trying to tell the stories.
You should.
That's all I
Like,
want to do.
I mean, it is my job. Like, it's
The real stories.
like seriously,
The story isn't because Brad Pitt's, though I think that's cool.
it's
The
pretty
story
fucking
isn't
cool.
that Cameron Diaz.
That's not cool.
Here's what's bizarre about the wine industry. And I have a podcast come up. I won't talk about it. I won't even talk about what the product is because, I want to give her a chance. And I never diss anybody anyway. But
well, I met her the first time when I worked at
Cameron?
Yes, at Raw Wine when I worked with Isabel Garone, and I gave her a glass too.
You're kidding? She was at.
She
Cameron
was
Diaz
there.
came to it?
She was there, and I was like, "What is she doing here?" And I literally already had known, like, she's probably tasting all of these. She's doing a wine, and then cut to 3 or 4 years later, her wine came out, and I was
there
like,
were some
"I
fabulous
knew
wines
it!"
at that thing.
Oh, amazing!
So the point I was going to make was, I have a podcast coming up. It's somebody again who thinks they've created something new in the wine business.
Mm-hmm.
The wine business is 8,000 years old, and this is the 2 points that I make. One is there's nothing new you can do. Whatever you do that's new is going to be a fad. If you're going to make wine coolers like they did in Bartles and James, they're gone already. If you're going to make jug wines, all that stuff is gone
Canned
because there's
wine.
nothing new. Because I think, and this is what I think, this is my hope and my optimism, whether it's Gen Z, X, or LMNOP, or millennials, that eventually, as adults, they'll have that glass of wine and they'll go, "Oh my gosh, what have I been drinking? I think I get it now." That's the optimal thing. And eventually, your job and my job is to make sure the stories are told so that one day, the awareness part of our funnel, to make people aware of what's going on, they'll kind of go, "Oh, gee, what an idiot I was."
Well, I was wrong. Wow, I was wrong.
Thanks so much for coming in today.
Thank you for having
I think we
me.
have plenty to talk about the next time around.
I know. Well, you're going to be on my show.
Okay,
You're going to come on my show, so
We can do it.
I love this. Thank you for
Thank you.
having me.
Cheers.
Cheers.